Okay, so here we go. First time, I think, on the YouTube channel, we're checking out the very first prototype of the JM2, which I've never played live either. This is essentially the second prototype, still a prototype. The only difference between this one and the one that's on the market, as you've seen in my other video, is just the curve, or lack of a curve on this one. The ones that are on the market now have a sort of a rounded arm carve, and this one's just the classic M2 kind of arm carve, same as on the original prototype. So, taking a look at this guitar, the main thing when I got it was maybe I didn't specify, or maybe it was just an error, but I don't personally like matte finishes, so it came with a matte finish. It is pretty cool, to be honest, and I wanted like a see-through black burst, and as you can see there's no burst on it, it's just see-through black, and it's not very dark, and I like, you know, the color black, so yeah, wanted to redo that. The back of the guitar, sorry, is a bit darker, and yeah, it's all matte. The neck is the same, still got my signature on the back. Fretboard is the same, ebony. I think we've got the same locking tuners. So most of what you see on the neck, obviously the finish on the headstock matches the body, so that's different, but the neck's the same. So I really like single coil pickups in the neck for solos. Having said that, I think after just playing it and just the output compared to like the really high gain bridge pickup versus the slightly less output pickup of the output of the neck pickup, I just thought it'd make more sense just to stick with a humbucker because they're a bit more versatile, I think. And the other thing was the bridge. So in the past I'd played guitars with a hip shot bridge, and I never really got on with the way they sounded, but I just put that down to the pickups that were in those guitars that weren't like Fishmans or EMGs, which I used in the past. And I kind of soon realized that it was the bridge that I wasn't really keen on the sound of. It's quite thin and bright sounding, and it kind of lacks low end, and it's just a bit kind of, for me, it doesn't really suit playing metal. It's like really bright and like Telecaster-y. And yeah, so that's why I switched to a tune-o-matic bridge, which is a way more well-rounded kind of tone in the hip shot. Although it's comfy and low profile and I like the way it feels, I also found it was like too low profile. Like it wasn't like super obvious, like playing this guitar, like where, if you're just locking in your palm mute position, where to kind of just quickly find the best palm mute spot. Whereas I actually quite like on these guitars, on these types of bridges, this bit here, I can kind of just like reference with this part of my palm to kind of be like, oh, this is like, you know, my palm mute spot. And because this is like so flush on the guitar, it's a little bit harder to kind of find that area. And yeah, I just didn't really like the tone of the hip shot bridge. But nonetheless, really awesome guitar, very special guitar to me. Obviously, this is my very first ever prototype guitar, so it holds a special place in my heart. I actually just got this guitar back. G, our old guitarist Gurneet, who was in the band on like Casting Shadows and Supreme Oppressor, and he wrote a lot of Reflections Through Fire. He wrote some of Oath of Silence, like the dual harmony thing, and Swallow the World. He wrote like the chorus for that. So he's a big part of Solosis history. I lent this guitar to him. He had it for a while, and I recently just got it back. And yeah, awesome guitar, very special. But the reasons why it came out that way, I already talked about the bridge and the finish on it, which is cool. I'm not gonna lie, even though I don't really like matte finishes. It is a very cool looking guitar. The reason I don't really like it is every time I see matte finishes, you always get these patches where, I don't know if we can really see on this, where, you know, you just get like these wear spots where it looks like greasy, or like you've been eating greasy fries and then playing guitar. Yeah, they just never really got into it. Back in the day, you'd only ever see like matte finishes on like the cheaper models. So I just kind of, I don't know. Never was too into it. I just noticed a scratch there. Was that G or was that me? Never mind. Anyway, so yeah, I can show you a little demo of how it sounds. Maybe it's not super clear, but it's definitely something that you can kind of hear and feel when you're playing the guitar, like the difference in these bridges. So this is the prototype plugged in. Now, it probably might be quite tricky to really hear the differences, and I'm not going to be doing like a direct recorded A/B right now, but yeah, there's definitely something about the Hipshot bridge that's just a bit more like tinny sounding and thin. And there might just be, you know, some people might be liking the way it sounds and prefer how it sounds if I go back to playing the other one. I would say you can achieve that kind of sound by like using an EQ in front of an amp if you want to take out some low end and boost some high end to try and replicate the brightness of this bridge. But if you want to go the other way or get something a bit fatter, it's better to start off with a more well-rounded tone and be able to remove things at the front end of your chamber, like an EQ pedal or like a drive pedal or like the Tempest pedal, that kind of thing. And remove something that's there, then start with a tone that's kind of missing something. So even if you like this kind of tone, like the brighter, thinner sound from a Hipshot, I would rather have a guitar that I can kind of sculpt a bit more and have something that's more well-rounded as a starting point, and know that I could use an EQ pedal or something in front of an amp, or if you're using an amp sim, just EQ in front of the amp to shape the tone to replicate this sound, as opposed to being stuck with that kind of sound from the start. But needless to say, this is an amazing guitar. I still do like the way it sounds. It doesn't sound bad. Obviously the Fishmans are amazing. Obviously you're going to be hearing a bit of the pick attack from the microphone there as well. Yeah, the neck is exactly the same. It's still got like the loom inlays on it. It feels very similar, obviously just apart from the bridge. And the neck pickup, the output's just not quite as hot as the bridge pickup, so that's why I went for a change. But I do love single coil pickups, always have. The main reason, if I'm honest, I also really like the look of a single coil in the neck anyway. I think it's like, there's part of it's just an aesthetic thing as well. I don't know if you can see the wear around the volume pot there where it looks greasy. That's why I'm not super keen on matte finish guitars. So yeah, mostly similar. The differences being the pickup, the matte finish, the type of finish, and the bridge. And then when they sent me the first prototype, which I'm going to grab now, that's when I went, yep, this is it, let's make it. Back on the real deal JM2, the finalized one. It's probably the sort of thing where you have to like play the guitars to really hear and feel the difference between them and what difference the bridges are making. But yeah, maybe it's just, you know, personal preference. This is what feels and sounds like home to me.